Hi there. Welcome to CLI's 15 on Friday. Wherever you're listening from, we're glad you're here. I'm Dr. Diana Green, CEO of Children's Literacy Initiative, and I have the pleasure of sitting down with Mychal Threets, CLI's Literacy Ambassador, PBS Resident Librarian, and mental health advocate. Mychal, thank you for joining us all the way from California.
This is so fun. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Mychal, this year we've had the honor of welcoming you as a CLI Literacy Ambassador, fighting for the rights of library kids and library adults across the country. However, your journey to library adulthood started at home. You said online that your mother used to take you and your siblings to the library often when you were children. Can you tell us a little bit more about your reading journey?
Of course, yeah, we went to the library all the time as library kids. My mom homeschooled us, so the library really was a second home. Every library kid seemed to say that, but for us, it really was true. It's where I fell in love with reading with Beverly Cleary's characters, with Ramona and Beezus Quimby, Henry Huggins, Ralph S. Mouse, Louis Sacker and Wayside School, The Chronicles of Narnia. So my reading journey started at the age of 3. I fell in love with reading. Got my first library card at the age of 5, and then it just kept on going from there, getting into young adult novels. My mom would still read books aloud to us into our teenage years. She read a book called A Child Called It by Dave Pelzer aloud to us, which should not be read aloud to anybody, but she still did, so it was a very fun, unique experience. So my reading journey has been a lifelong journey, to say the least.
Wow, very similar to my boys. They've had a very similar reading journey, especially the part of mom reading to us.
Yes.
I think they enjoyed that the most.
Very necessary.
But you've been a strong advocate for library joy. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to find their own space in their own local library?
I do. I think if someone's looking for their own library joy, their own space in their local library, is to simply go to the local library. See what it offers for you. I love that there are so many libraries everywhere you go. So if one library is not, if you're not feeling that library, if you don't like the vibe, you can just go out the doors and just go to the next one. That's the power of Google. That's the power of social media, is finding all these beautiful libraries and seeing if you love just books, if you love ebooks and audiobooks, using those various apps. If you're looking for a library with a collection like video game collections, musical instruments, board games, those are all out there in the different libraries. So I think you're very capable of finding your library joy, finding your library space. If you try more than one library, get your library card. You don't have to have a library card tattoo like I do, but you can keep on shooting for more and more library cards day by day.
I think it's so powerful how the library has transcended just from books. There's so many other things
Yes.
libraries now offer, and I don't think the average person knows that.
No, not at all. We're trying to reach more and more people, but slowly but surely we're going to get there. But still, a lot of people think it just is a place where you get shushed and you borrow books. And I, as a librarian, have never shushed anybody, and I checked out far more than books all the time.
Well, there's another aspect of your library journey that's been very powerful as it relates to people maintaining their mental health. How have you used sort of the intersection of library joy and mental health come to fruition in your life, in the lives of others?
I believe that libraries and mental health go hand in hand entirely. As a person who loves libraries and also a person who suffers greatly from an assortment of mental health struggles, the library has always been my safe place. The place where I feel like I belong. And that's like when I talk with people about the library, they say that they feel the same way. They know that they can have anxiety, they can have panic attacks at the library. They can be depressed and they're still allowed to come to the library. They don't have to leave their depression, leave their anxiety outside the doors. It's a place where they can be themselves. And I think that is the intersection. That's what library joy is. Library joy to me is something for everyone to define. My definition may not be your definition of library joy. And that's why I love that you could be unhoused, you could be mentally ill, you can be a library kid, you can be a library grown-up, you could be a garbage collector, you could be a businessman, and you all have a space at the local library.
And we're really talking about the physical building, but also the books that are inside the library can also help individuals who may be struggling with mental health issues, or not even mental health, but self-reflection issues, self-esteem issues. And, we're seeing so many school libraries having issues with keeping those books on the shelves. Can you talk about how an everyday person can support ensuring that books can be reflective of all individuals and making sure that we protect that right?
You know, it's much more complicated than you would think it is. I honestly think it's pretty simple to protect the rights, and it's just by talking about the library. We talk about the library as a physical building, but like you said, the library really is everywhere around us. It's at the schools, it's at our homes, it's at the grocery stores. All libraries are represented because libraries reflect the community. We're all neighbors. We're all trying to enjoy one another, and that's the special part about the library. So saying, yes, I deserve to feel seen in books. I belong in books. I need to see characters who look like me. That's important. And the way that we do that is by talking about it again and again and again, convincing all library kids, no matter what they look like, the color of their skin, their background, their family status, is that they have a story to tell, that their voice is very powerful and it needs to be told. Not just that it can be told, it needs to be told, it deserves to be told. And the more that we tell kids that, the happier they're going to be, the more joyful they're going to be about saying, yes, Mr. Mychal, this librarian said, I have a voice. I have a powerful voice that should be said. And how can a grown-up go against a kid saying, I want to share my story. I want to share what I've been through. I want to share my struggle. I want to share my joy. They may still go against that, but it'll look very, very bad when they go against it. So I think talking about these stories, bringing kids to libraries, but also for the library to come to them, come to grocery stores, come to parks, is so very important.
Absolutely. And, with social media being so prevalent and children feeling like they have to look just like these people on social media,
Yes.
the powerful thing about books is that there's no special way someone needs to look,
No.
behave, and books they can see themselves and say,
Yes.
I'm going through this same struggle, and now
Exactly.
I can identify with this particular character or
Yes.
this particular biography about an individual.
No, and that's so important. I think that maybe what you just said made me think that it's also there's no right way to read a book. There's all these reading levels. But as long as you're trying to read a book, if you read the same story, the same graphic novel over and over again, that's quite okay. And that's why it's important that we have physical books, we have ebooks, we have audiobooks, because all of our brains work a different way. So for some, we may just devour physical hard copy books, whereas other kids, other grown-ups even, need the audiobook. The brain is like, I can't read those physical words, but if you hear it, but if you get it in my ears, I'm going to read as many books as anyone else will.
And that brings back a memory for me, reading Rainbow. My sons they love books, but to
Sure.
see it on the screen, to
Yes.
see the beautiful, vibrant colors,
Yes.
many of the books LeVar Burton read to us, it inspired, I think, my sons to know, what?
Yes.
Even though I love seeing, I can read
Yeah.
chapter books. I
Yes.
can read any type of book.
Exactly.
But this next question, I'm actually going to read verbatim because it's a really important question. All the work you put towards advocating for libraries caught our eye early on your social media career. Believe it or not, Jordy Owens and I saw you, and we both sent you a text through social media.
Sure.
And I don't really like social media, but I saw
don't
you
blame you.
and sent you an email. Could you call me? We really want to talk to you. And so we were excited to connect with you, and even more excited to invite you to become a literacy ambassador and partner with a Children's Literacy Initiative, what we lovingly call CLI. We're overjoyed at your literacy championship, but we're also curious. What made you say yes?
That's a good question. You know what? I think I love literacy far more than I've ever known. As a librarian, as a practicing librarian, I didn't realize how big of a deal literacy was in my life, in my career, convincing people that it's important that they need to learn to read and write, and the various aspects, as you well know, of literacy. Of course, it's books, but there's also financial literacy, there's computer literacy, there's literacy all around us. So I think as I had more and more conversations with library kids, with library grown-ups who were illiterate, especially with the crisis, the struggle in the world, I think that's why I said yes. And also, I think for personal reasons, like my grandmother lived to be 90 years old. She recently passed away a couple days ago.
Sorry.
And thank you. And she grew up in Arkansas, and she didn't have libraries where she was as a kid. She literally was not allowed to have a library card. And she raised me always talking about like, you're a librarian? Like, she wouldn't have cared. She wouldn't have cared if I was just in my room all the time. But she was so proud that I was a librarian. Like, I talked about literacy, that I got to do something that she never got to do. So I think I've always just like tried to make her very proud with anything that I've ever done. And I think for her, like, as much as she doesn't care about titles, just being able to be a literacy ambassador, talk about those wonderful things, would make a person like her very, very proud.
Well, I'm personally gratified that you chose to represent Children's Literacy Initiative. A recent movie has just come out. It's on Peacock it's a documentary called Sentence. And it is talking about the literacy crisis, the illiteracy crisis in our country.
Sure.
And it was so heartbreaking to see adults who were struggling with reading. And then you saw how that was being passed down to their children and their children struggling, and their parent could not help them because they were illiterate. Wow. And so, I encourage you, if you haven't seen it, to check it out on Peacock.
I can't wait. I've never even heard of it.
I just want you to know that it's been a real treat getting to sit down and chat with you. Where can our listeners find you?
I am a chronically online person anywhere where there is a social media platform. The Twitter, the Threads, the Facebook, the Instagram, TikTok is where I can be found. But oftentimes just in your local library. I have a tendency to pop up at different libraries in the United States of America. Canada has been trying to ask me to come to their libraries. I just have to get a passport. So maybe one day Canada will see me in their libraries too. But definitely online on social media. Mychal Librarian is bothering people about literacy in libraries. And then hopefully soon in a local library near a whole bunch of library kids and library grown-ups and future library kids and library grown-ups.
Well, Mychal, again, it's definitely been a treat to have you here. I also want people to know, if you're interested in book sanctuaries and learning how to establish your own, join the movement by visiting booksanctuary.org. To learn more about Children's Literacy Initiative and our work, head over to cli.org/about-us. Make sure to subscribe wherever you find podcasts. This show is written and produced by Children's Literacy Initiative and made possible through our donors. Thank you, and enjoy your Friday and find a great book to read.
Yes.